unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
Good evening, good day, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, rock and roll, rock stars of the Kick-Ass Nation. It is I, Christopher Rausch, your No Excuses coach, here with another edition of the Raw Unscripted Podcast. And tonight is very special. Tonight we celebrate. Party balloons, fireworks going off. We celebrate, and I cannot believe this. We are celebrating 6 years of doing this show. And we're on the 300th episode. 300 episodes. Some people may not think that's that much, 6 years. But ladies and gentlemen, I am super, super excited and super honored to be coming to you tonight here on January 21st, 2025. I started this show, I think, on January 19th, 2019. What's up, Robert Broker in the house? Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. Always a staunch supporter of the Raw Unscripted Show. Thank you so much for being here. I can't even put into words the elation and the sense of pride that I feel here celebrating 300 episodes. I've been watching the number tick up to 300, and I'm like, what am I going to do for 300? Is that really a big deal? And I've talked to people and like, oh my God, Chris, I did 7 episodes of my podcast. Oh my God, Chris, I only made it to 100 episodes of my podcast. Oh my God, Chris. And here I heard this a lot. I have been thinking about doing a podcast, and a lot of people who have been thinking about doing a podcast, their number one excuse is that there's so many podcasts out there. So tonight, in this conversation, for you guys listening on the podcast, I do this live every Tuesday night on a video cast. Tonight's episode is not only about celebrating, but it's really talking about what it takes to, number one, start something. Number two, how to stay consistent with it. And number three, how to make it even better, right? When I think about this episode, and I'm going to play you the very first episode, I'm going to tell you the story of how this podcast started because I believe it's really inspiring. For those of you who may not know, I actually did a live radio show for 5 years. So this has been going on 6 years. I did a live radio show for 5 years. And what I would like to do for you that are watching this right now is I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you that my actual live radio show, if you can believe this, is actually still available. So I did that for 5 years, and I'm going to show you the screen if you want to check it out. It's called the Kick-Ass Radio Show. I started that in, I think, 2010. I think it's something like that. And I did it until 2015. So on your screen, you can see this. It's called, let's go up to the top. I have a ton of episodes. So it is called The Kick-Ass Guide to Life. So if you want to look it up on iTunes, here we show 2015. Let's go all the way to the beginning, all the way down to the bottom. So actually it shows right here. My first episode was March 18th, 2013. So that's pretty crazy. Think about this. I just said I started this show on January 19th, 2019. My first episode of that show, which was a live radio show I did every single week on the internet. It goes on a podcast, obviously. Right there, March 18th, 2013. So I have been in broadcasting now. 13 to 23 is 10 plus 2, 12 years. 12 years I've been doing podcasting. 12 years I've been in front of this microphone here in this studio, sharing my gifts with you. There are a lot of cool episodes. I would invite you to go back and check this out. Again, it's on iTunes. I'm not sure exactly where else it is, but if you go on Google and you search Christopher Rausch podcast, I think you find it, or Christopher Rausch radio show, or you type in the Kick-Ass Radio Show, or you type in the Kick-Ass Guide to Life, Guide, Guide to Life. It's actually a book I'm writing. The very first episode is the intro to the Kick-Ass Guide to Life, the intro show. I had some really, really fucking cool guests on here. I had Sandra D. Robinson. She's a soap opera star. She was a soap opera star. Here is the lesson here's the show I would like you to go check out. Out of all of the conversations that I've had on a podcast or on a radio show, and I've had a lot of great ones with very famous people. This one, if you notice the title, I'm not sure if you can see this, but for everybody listening, it's called Life Lessons. The ex and current wife share stories. That was on April 29th, 2013, which is coincidentally my ex-mother-in-law and my ex-sister-in-law's birthday. Oddly enough, I had a conversation, one of the proudest shows that I've ever done. Back in 2013, I had a conversation. The first part of the show was my ex-wife, Tammy, who I'm still dear friends with to this day. We were married for 5 years and been divorced for 35 years, I think, something like that. But I had her on the first part of the show. And then I invited my current wife, who is still my wife to this day. Thank you very much, Barbara. And then I had them both talking, and we were talking about how, because people ask me, like, how can you be friends with your ex-wife? How can you be friends? I'm friends with all my ex-girlfriends, except for one. Unfortunately, she passed away. Friends with all my ex-girlfriends. There's one I really don't talk to much anymore. I was talking to her, but, you know, things drift away a little bit. But I could still call her at any moment. I had that conversation with my ex-wife, talking about things, talking about how I was, how I've grown, what's changed, some of my idiosyncrasies, how much, you know, the story of me being homeless and her being the first girlfriend that I had, all these amazing stories. Then I had them both on the show talking about how they were friends. My ex-wife invited my current wife to a girls' night. There was another one of my girlfriends there at the same time. So 3 people I dated in one kitchen. That's a funny fucking story. If you want to type it in the chat, and I will share that story. It's pretty hilarious. And then I ended the show with my current wife, Barbara. Really a beautiful conversation. And when I think about my legacy, I would love for that conversation to be played at my funeral or a celebration of life. A very, very proud moment, because it talks about the integrity of who I am, right? I could sit there and tell you how great I am and how much I am proud of myself and the relationships I've established over the years and the podcast I've done. But that really, for me, was a beautiful opportunity to hear in my own ears, you know, how much I've grown and how much I mean to people, and the fact that we can still be good people irregardless. There was infidelity. There was all sorts of different things that were going on in that first marriage. We're still friends to this day. She's actually, I guess, partners with my ex-best friend. You can read into that story, ex-best friend. Still love her to death. Have nothing to, I'm happy for them. I always comment on their post. But that is a super cool thing. But there are a lot of great shows. I had Bob Donnell. I'm going to be playing you a clip from Bob Donnell when he was here on the Raw and Unscripted show. I just spoke at his online memorial a couple of days ago. Bob Donnell. And then I had also rocker life coach Tim Gillette, who sometimes pops in here. I had Bob Donnell. That's what it was. Bob Donnell wasn't able to make it, so Tim showed up. But then Bob was on the next one, and it's called Taking Your Life to the Next Level. That is a excellent conversation. Deborah Reisendorf, Brian Knight, Larry Broughton. There are a ton of shows. Don't want to talk about that one. Martin Presse, Larry Wingett. Larry Wingett, if you don't know him, he's a world famous author in the personal growth space. He's a lot like me. He's very opinionated and very confrontational. You know, I mean, not like that, but he's like me. He's just, you know, what you see is what you get. But I invite you, the Kick-Ass Radio Show or the Kick-Ass Guide to Life. There are a ton of that. And you may ask, Chris, why did you do that for 5 years and why did you stop? My last episode was on August 31st, 2015. And truth be told, I was going through a period in my life where I was getting bored and I was getting complacent. And I thought, I'm going to put the show on hiatus. I'd reached the maximum of what I could do as far as my listeners and everything. And it just wasn't growing. And I thought, you know, maybe I need to shift gears. And that was a live radio show. And I loved radio all my life. I always wanted to be a DJ and spin music. And that might be coming up in my future here in 2025. So stay tuned for that. But I put it on hiatus. And quite honestly, and I've told the story here before, but in 2016, I took a break. I worked a full-time job anyway. I've done coaching and speaking and podcasting all on the side. It's been my side hustle. It's been my passion for many, many years. I've been a professional speaker since probably 1998 or 1999. I just shared an interesting post on Facebook where I showed some of my speaker badges. But I found myself being incongruent. I found myself talking and coaching clients and not really following my own words of advice. And so I can't do that. I personally can't do that. I can't be fake. I'm always going to be 100% real with you. There have been some really very raw and vulnerable moments here in the last 6 years of this show. which I'm happy to share those shows with you. If you go look at this, a lot of the solo shows, there's some former aspect of me sharing my soul with you guys, because I believe when we get vulnerable and we get real with each other, there's a connection that takes place. And that's why this show is, I want to share this with you guys for a second. This is something I'm super proud of with this show. May not seem like a lot to you, but for me, it is pretty incredible. This show, there's a ranking system. And there's right here, it says global rank, top 10%. It says Raw Unscripted with Christopher Rausch. Right there, it says top 10%. Global ranking. That is through, I checked this out. This is through millions and millions of podcasts, right? And I was really shocked for me, right? Because I look at my numbers every once in a while, and they're good. They're really good. But I'm not really to a point where I can monetize, and that's never been a passion of mine. I'm going to tell you why I started this podcast in a moment. But top 10%. I'm congratulating my brother Walt McKinley. He stopped doing his show, the Legacy Driven Marriages. He's in the top 5%. So, but I'm proud to say that this podcast is in the top 10%. The last time I checked, I haven't checked in a month. We were in 28, 29 countries. Sometimes we're in 32, depends on the numbers you look at. But I'm super proud of that. I'm proud that there's people in Denmark. I'm proud that there's people in China. I'm proud that there's people in Australia. I'm proud that obviously USA and Canada are the largest ones. I have Germany. I'm in all those different countries. People are listening to my voice right now. And I'm so grateful for you guys helping me make that a reality. The top 10% of the world. That is such a huge accomplishment for me. And I don't take that lightly. I don't take the fact that you guys show up here every single week. We got Jacqueline Rose in the house. She says, "Hi, Christopher. You are the bomb. Thank you so much." We got Miss Angel. She says, "Hi, Christopher. Congratulations. Well done. Thank you." Robert Broker in the house again, like I said before. Let me tell you the reason why I started this show and how that all came to be. Actually, you know what? You want to do something fun? Let me show you my very first episode. This started as a podcast, a true podcast. I didn't do it on video. Well, I did it on video, but I didn't create a video podcast for a little bit later. But I'm going to tell you the story. I'm actually going to show you this and I'll tell you the story because I think it's kind of cool. So let me make sure. Give me a second here. Thank you guys. Feel free to ask me any questions. This is an open show tonight. I just want to have a good time with you guys. So let's see. Let's go to episode number 1. And I'm going to play you the very beginning. It is funny because it's on video, but it is, hang on one second. It's on video, but the only reason why it's on video is because I had to record it for the podcast network that I was on. And I'm going to tell you that story in a second. So I'm going to play just a couple of minutes because I think it's hilarious to see the very first episode. Here we are on episode number 300. So I apologize for you guys listening. If you want to check it out, you guys can go to youtube.com/Christopher Rausch. You guys can see it in the show notes. You can find, so wherever you're listening to the podcast, you can go to YouTube and you can see this particular episode and you can see what I'm about to share. So this is the very first episode when it wasn't a podcast. I was just talking to the camera, recording my voice for where in the hell is it? Okay. For my producer to produce the show. So here I'm going to shut up here for a second. I wonder if I can go full screen. Let's just try to do that. All right. So here is the very first episode. You'll notice it says here, Speaking to the Heart Network, Podcast Network. That's the network I was on. You notice the graphic is a little bit different. My look back then was more a combination of business and professional. So let's just check out the very first episode here of the Raw Unscripted Show. For you guys listening, you guys can listen to this as well. So here we go.
Unstoppable kick-ass
Same
confidence. Intro. Are you ready?
Here we go.
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
Hey everybody, this is Raw and Unscripted with yours truly, Christopher Rausch, your place to help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. And I'm glad you're here with us today because this is the first episode of what's going to be a long-running podcast with lots of bonus features and video footage afterwards. But the real reason why we're here today is we're here to talk about what it is that causes us to curl up in a corner and kind of let life pass us by. And I talk about a lot in life about whether we're a victim or a victor, or whether we're living or existing. And the purpose of this show is to really get to the heart of our past, our present, and our future, and especially our perceptions and our expectations about those, so that we can truly live a kick-ass, unstoppable life. I'm known as the no excuses coach. So what you can expect to hear on this particular podcast is just the straight ahead truth. This is heartfelt truth that you need to hear. I'm often told that I say what other people think. And it's really important to do that, because the truth will set you free, but it'll piss you off first. It's a meme that I put up yesterday on Facebook, I think. And it's something that we all need to hear. And as your host and as your guide through this process, we are going to uncover the truth, and we're going to change our perceptions and our perspectives about the past and the present and the future, so that you can give it different meaning. Instead of sitting from a victim mindset and saying, oh, poor me, and these things happen to me, instead you're going to be able to reframe them and say they happened for me instead of to me. Now, my personal story, I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but today's show, we're just going to talk about the foundation of what Raw and Unscripted really is, and how you, the listener, are going to value and benefit from our time together. And I'm pleased to have with me today my producer, Shane Schultz. And Shane Schultz, please introduce yourself to the audience and give a little bit of background on how we came to know each other and what your involvement is in this. And let's talk about the Speaking to the Heart radio network and the reason why I decided to join your crew.
Well, it is awesome to be here. First of all, I got to tell you, I am more excited than anybody that's out there that this show is finally launching here on the Speaking of the Heart radio network. As you know, Chris, I'm a mental health advocate. In fact, you call me the godfather of mental health. The reason why I went to you in regards to the network is because my first time that I actually got to meet you was as the first episode on the Living the Dream with Travis Barton. Mm-hmm. And I knew that, you had made a big difference in Travis's life. And I really do respect Travis. And I respected you as I was learning more about you while we were shooting that particular episode. I also realized that we had a lot of different things in our life that were pretty similar. You had not so easy of a life when it came to your youth. You dealt with a lot of different challenges when it came to your mom and when it came to the local environment of the area. In fact, you had met, the barrel of a gun at one point in time, over a pack of cigarettes. And I can really relate to those things because I've put myself in positions as to where I found myself in those types of situations as well. I've gone through, I've lived at 8 homeless shelter stays. I've had 7 inpatient stays in the hospital because I was dealing with challenges and struggles of my mental health, whether it be, clinical depression, whether it be, codependency, whether it be my addiction, whether it be my PTSD. These things I've gone throughout my life. In fact, as well that, the first time that I came to a suicidal situation was when I was 8 years old.
So that is Shane Schultz. He, like he said, and welcome everybody. Good to see you, Darlene. We're just talking about celebrating my 300th episode, and that was the very first episode that I ever did. Dig the background, right? The glasses. This was not a video cast. This was just me and him talking for the podcast. Darlene says, "Hey, I made it early, friends. Cold here in Florida." Yeah, I found out it was snowing in Austin. Hello, Scott Goyette. Yeah, so I was a guest on Travis Barton's podcast, and he came to me. He's like, "Dude, you have a great voice. Have you ever thought about doing a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. I like live radio shows. I like being spontaneous in the moment. I'm kind of in between things. I haven't done anything in a while." And like I was telling you guys before, in 2016, I took a break. I didn't coach anybody for 2 years. I got out of the motivational space. I said, I want to be normal. I just want to go to work and come home and be normal, Chris, because I had been so in the paint, as my friend Walt says, and just going hard and hard and hard and proving. And I loved my motivational stuff, but I had to go through the valley of the dark soul, the valley of whatever they call it. I had to go through some shit. And I literally had a conversation with myself one night, and I almost had to convince myself to stay alive. It was right before we were going through fertility issues. We couldn't have a kid naturally. We tried IVF. We were going through an adoption agency for 2 years, and I was just at my wit's end. I'd put my speaking career on hold. I had a lot of stuff going on. My back issues were really starting to get really bad. My mental health was not good. And so I just took a step back and I said, you know what? If it's still meant to be, then it's meant to be. Maybe I'm pushing too hard. And so I did this podcast. My friend Travis said, hey, dude, will you be my first guest? I'm like, I don't know. And quite honestly, that was the tipping point for me realizing that I really missed talking to you guys. I really missed being in front of the camera. I really missed sharing my experiences and interviewing other people about their experiences, because my whole intention, if you know me, you know my legacy, that Christopher Rausch will have fought for what's right and what's fair. He will have risked for which that mattered, and he will have left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. And having that conversation with Travis and having him ask me those questions, and like Shane said, I had a huge impact on Travis. He was a bartender, and my friend called me and she said, hey, will you have lunch with this guy? He's really in a down situation. And I had lunch with this guy. I didn't know who he was. And I realized pretty quickly he'd been shot. He had all these different experiences. And I told him, I said, I think you should be in the personal development space. And again, he was a bartender. Fast forward, he got into the podcasting space, crushed it, got into the social media space, crushed it. Now he owns a gym down in Huntington Beach. He's crushing it. He's a dad now. And so Shane had said, and also Travis had said, you really had a big impact on me. And sometimes we need to hear from other people in our lives what it is that we do to remind us of our special gifts and our talents. And so we got to the end of the conversation, like Shane said, and he's like, dude, I would love to have you on the network. And I said, I don't know about podcasting. I can't sit alone in a room staring at my walls, talking to myself into a microphone. I said, that doesn't feel natural to me. And he's like, well, here's what we'll do. We'll put you on the Speaking the Podcast Network. I'll produce your show. I'll do all these different things. And I said, let me think about it. And I talked to my wife about it, and she goes, you're really good at it. You should do it. And I started researching podcasting, and I found out all these people had these nice cameras and different camera angles. And the biggest thing that I found was editing. People edit out the ahs and the ums and all that stuff, and basically looking for perfection. And if you know me, I'm not perfect, and I don't want to pretend to be perfect. And so I started thinking about names for the show. I'm like, I'm not going to do Kick-Ass Radio Show. What am I going to do? And I thought about it, and I'm like, what do I want people to know at the very onset before they even hear me speak or see me on camera? What do I want them to know about the show? And I want them to know that I am raw and unscripted, that I say what's in my heart. I don't write things down. Very seldom do I take any notes, and I put any notes. Right now I have some notes up just to keep me queued up because I could talk for days on end. But a lot of it is really just from my heart. I feel like when I'm in that moment and I'm doing it live, people ask me, like, why do you do it live? You can record it. I feel there's something authentic. I know there isn't. I don't think. I know there's something authentic, and I know, and I love the place where I come to serve. I sit down here before, and I say a little prayer, and I say a little intention, like I really want my words and my actions and through this broadcast to touch somebody. I just said we're in the top 10% of podcasts globally. We got thousands and thousands and thousands of listeners. I want to connect with somebody so much so that they get something out of this episode and they come back next week. And it's kind of like class. And you show up and you start becoming a better person. You start feeling better about yourself. You start taking better care of yourself. You start talking better to yourself. You start treating other people better. And all those things build upon themselves. And you start creating this amazing life where in turn you give your gifts. You share your gifts. And that was my full intention. And so I went back to him and I said, okay, can I swear on your network? And he says, yeah, kids watch this, kids listen to this. And I said, okay. I said, can we do it later? And that's God's honest truth. People ask me like, Chris, why do you do it so late? I have guests on the East Coast a lot of times and they're like 10 o'clock here. And I'm like, I'm sorry. It is what it is. Sometimes we record it earlier in the day if they're just absolutely just can't do it. But Shane came back to me and says, okay, if you do it at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time and at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can say as many F-bombs as you want. And I said, okay, it's going to be raw and unscripted. Here's what we're going to do. He says, I love it. This is what we're going to do. Okay, great. And so here's the other reason why I really wanted to do this show. At that point, when I started in January, we adopted Jackson. He was born in November. So I did the show for a little bit and I almost got complacent about it. But then my son was born, and God's honest truth. When you heard me talk about the show, if you're just a brand new listener, you got to have a why. You have to have a why. You have to have a big enough why to have a big enough how. And what I thought about was, and I've been consumed by this, is that we don't know when we're going to die. and we're all going to die. And I want you to take that to heart. And so many people are afraid of dying, but here's what I want people to really understand is a lot of people are afraid to live. And I hope that's not you. And so for me, when I thought about this, I'm like, God, oh my God, I know so many people have lost their dads early in life and they want nothing more than to have their dad present. Oh, what would my dad tell me to do? I wish my dad was here to talk to me about this. And I never personally had a father in my life at all. I had my grandfather who was somewhat of a father figure. I had a few people, but I really didn't have a father person, a mentor in my life until I was 17 years old, Bill White, which I have his quote on my arm that says, "You're only limited by the parameters of your own mind." And I even forged his initials. It says WTW right there. Right there. It says WTW. I didn't have a father figure in my life. And so when I made the decision to become a dad, when I told my wife, I said, okay, we'll have one kid. And then that process was really, really tough and very emotionally draining for both of us. And then when we got told that we got picked by the adoption agency or by the parents that were going to be placing their baby with us for adoption, the biggest fear of my life was, God forbid, I'm not here for this kid. And so I thought, what better way than to create as much content so that if, God forbid, something happens, that my son, I told my wife this, I said, please tell him, I said, he could go to YouTube. I nearly have 1,000 videos on YouTube, and I started with one. And this, I want you guys to really think about this in terms of your own life. I'm teaching right now. I started with one. When you see me on that video you just saw, I was nervous as hell, and I wasn't even talking to anybody. I was just talking to Shane. To sit in front of a camera, oh my God, I was petrified. When I first did my first walk and talk, I used to do walk and talk videos. There's tons of walk and talk videos on there that really got me popular and famous, that got me a lot of coaching clients, because I would just be walking my dog and I'm like, hey, this is me walking my dog. And I would just talk about whatever I was thinking about myself and sharing with you guys. And people were like, man, I really dig you. I'm connecting with you. I really love what you're saying. But I thought about it. I'm like, I'm just going to create as much possible content as I possibly can. I really haven't cared about numbers. I haven't cared about monetizing. It's all about that whenever I go, I hope there's enough content here that my son can go there and say, what would dad say? What would dad say about life? You guys know I talk about a lot about relationships and life and career, somewhat finances, but really it's about how to unfuck yourself, how to get out of your own way, how to stop the excuses and get results. And I'm proud to say now I have 300 episodes. Not only that, but I have a bunch of special lives that I've done. But on that YouTube, I have nearly 1,000 videos. I've done the Raw Unscripted show for 6 years. I did the Unfiltered Experience with Scott. You guys may know that show. I did that for 2.5 years, almost 3 years, really mostly during COVID. So I have that content. I also did another podcast called Rainbows in Real Life with my sister, Pamela Aubrey. I did that during COVID for about 2 years. So I have done a ton of stuff, and it's all on YouTube. My Kick-Ass Radio show is on there. I did another show that was my very, very first show, I think, called 3 Sides of the Coin. And I have those episodes. 3 Sides of the Coin was myself, Audra Irwin, and Carol Pilkington. And we were all in a mastermind together. This is a funny story. We couldn't be more different. Like, I'm a bull in a china shop. Audra is spiritual, hippie, 60s. Hey, babe. Whoo, isn't that cool? And Carol is like an empath and fluffy. She's like the fluffy to my bull in a china shop stuff. And we did 3 sides of the coin because we all have 3 different perspectives. We would talk about one thing and we would all share our perspectives, and then ultimately we would get to the end of the conversation and find the similarities, the commonalities, to show that really all of humanity, we're a lot more the same than we are different. And I am so proud of all that stuff I've done, because here is the thing. When I think about this little guy, I'm 55 years old, average life expectancy 78. I don't know when I'm going to go, but I know with all my heart that I have impacted a ton of you. I have had a lot of coaching clients through these broadcasts, whatever show it might be. But I know that, and my son knows this now, he's 8 years old. He knows that if he has a question or a problem with relationships or career or whatever it might be, that dad will have the answer in video or audio. And that really, when you think about what it is that you're doing, that will drive you. Because people ask me, like, how did you make it 6 years? I'm like, there were plenty of times. There were plenty of times when I almost gave up on this show. When I was like, when I was really consumed with the wrong thing. When you think about being consumed with the wrong thing, people, have you monetized yet? Have you got advertisers yet? What are your numbers like? Blah, blah, blah. Some of my coaches, some of my mentors would be very fixated on metrics and performance, which is fine. But I'm like, I just want to show up every single day or every single week and provide whatever's in my heart to connect with people. And I love getting those messages saying, Chris, I watched that show 2 years ago and it finally hit me today. That conversation you have with so-and-so. That's why I do this, and a lot of what I say is rattling in my brain going, Chris, you need to make sure you're congruent with that you need to make sure you're congruent with that. And I've had the blessing of having so many amazing guests. I want to share somebody asked me, like, if you were to tell me which shows to listen to, I'm going to share this with you right now. So let's start with some of the older ones first. Episode number 71, Monica Kretschmer. Monica Kretschmer is the founder of the Universal Women's Network up in Canada. I think according to her, at that time, I remember it's the largest women's network in Canada. She got on the show, very beautiful person, and she started proceeding to tell me her story of how what I gathered was she was a very affluent. She was married to a very powerful, rich man, had everything she wanted, and she said she would used to donate money and goods and items to this woman's shelter. And then her baby was born, her son was born, and you guys can go check this out. It's a very, very inspiring story. And her son was born, and the husband became physically and mentally, verbally abusive. And she got to the point where she had to decide, am I going to tolerate this? Is this what I'm going to say is acceptable for my son to be as a person, as a man in his life? And in the dark of night, with nothing, she left all of that and went to that woman's shelter and became a recipient of their services. Basically went from having everything, BMWs, Mercedes, rich house, and had to go there and say, I need help. And from that point, he came after her. And you can hear this all in the story. That's why I'm recommending it. Episode number 71. And she proceeded to tell me that she spent like the next 13 years, I can't remember what it was, fighting her husband, so much so that she got so good in court that she was able to start defending herself. She committed herself to making it a priority to fight for her son, no matter what the cost was. Physically, mentally, spiritually, she was going to fight. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story, because then she decided, hey, if I can do this, maybe I can inspire some other women. And now she's created the Universal Women's Network in Canada. Powerful, powerful organization. I support her as a male influence for the organization. It's a sub thing. I won't even get into that. But yes, Monica Kretschmer, episode number 71. Number 75, Edmund Moreno. You want to talk about a great conversation about life? Two heart-centered people. Check that one out. Episode 81, Tracy Schmidt. She's actually, I just invited her to be back here on the Raw Unscripted show. She hasn't been on since episode 81. She has no arms and no legs. And you want to talk about no excuses? I had her on the Unfiltered Experience, I think once or twice. Every time I talk to her, I think about the pain in my back, and it's legit. It is legit. My pain management doctor just told me it's a matter of if not when you're going to need more surgery. And no arms and no legs. And she got in her car and drove from the East Coast down to Florida. She wanted to compete in the Paralympics or something like that. She wanted to get into sailing. Go check out the conversation. I promise you, I almost guarantee you, there is no way you can listen to Tracy and not fucking sit there and put the mirror up to your face and go, yeah, I have no excuses. Zero excuses, no arms and no legs. I think she calls it her chicken leg or chicken, she has the use of that. I won't even get into it, but check it out. Episode 107. I hope you guys are writing these down. These are brilliant, brilliant fucking people that helped me see things differently. 107. I call her Nina the Brit. Unbelievable story about sex trafficking, human trafficking, created massive ripples and changes in her life to go out and change the world. My friend Jock Brokus, who is a dear friend and a mentor, he's been on the show multiple times, as has Walt McKinley. I'm not sure if they're watching. Yes, Patricia, Tracy. Tracy's going to be back on the show. Jock Brokus, he's been, let me just make sure I move this over here. Jock, I met him in Clubhouse. He's Scottish. I heard his voice when he came into a room, And I was just blown away by the articulation and the intelligence and the connection and the human love that was emanating from his soul. Jock has been on episode number 160. He's been on a bunch of special episodes of the Raw Unscripted show. Walt was on episode number 143. Walt was also on episode 183. Again, Jock was on 119. He was on other ones. Go check those out, because those conversations, especially with all three of us, we just did one. The end of last year, or the beginning of this year. You guys can go check it. The three of us got together. Every time we get together, we just fucking learn from each other, and we share our hearts and our souls with one another. It's beautiful. Episode 131, Lee Height, spiritual teacher and friend. Amazing. Bob Donnell. Yeah, you guys know I just posted about him. He passed away. He lost his fight. He passed away. I'm going to play you a clip from that. And then let me know in the comments if you guys want to see a blooper, see some bloopers. I actually saved my blooper reels from back in the day, but Bob, I just was contacted by his daughter and his life partner prior to the memorial service that we did last week. And they watched the show that I did with Bob. He was also on the Kick-Ass radio show. I'm pretty sure he was on here twice, but I couldn't find the other one. They asked me if for permission to use a clip from my show as part of the slideshow to kind of present his life. And for me, that was a massive honor. Bob was, and it was evident again in the memorial service, I aspire to be Bob. Right? You know what? Like, be like Bob. He impacted so many people. So many people showed up and had beautiful things to say about him, and exactly what I'm doing, sharing my heart, my soul, and my wisdom and my experiences, and talking to people about what it is that we can do differently. So I wanted to, I'm going to share this with you guys. It's really quick, but I loved what they found in this. So here is Bob. Where is it? Okay, let's see. Share. Let's go right here.
What has it been like for you? Have you had any of those situations
hang on one
where
second.
people have just like, okay,
Stop.
I can't.
Sharing the wrong screen. Sharing the wrong. Let's try that again. Pardon me. And thank you guys all so much for being here. Feel free to ask me any questions. This is a conversation with you guys that I'm just sharing this beautiful experience. Bob, an amazing soul. So go back again. This particular episode number is 151. Listen to this about love. Listen to this. Watch this.
What has it been like for you? Have you had any of those situations where people have just like, okay, Bob, I can't deal with the way you think. I'm just going to go off in my own little part of the world?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the interesting things that comes out of this is, for me, my ability to love them is not dependent on whether they love me back or not. My ability to care about their betterment and best for them is not dependent on whether they do that same thing for me. Now they get a vote. They get a vote in the matter as well. Just because I'm willing to love them and care for them and be there for them does not mean they're going to be there the same for me. But it's kind of like when I was growing up, I was raised by a single mom, and I remember my mom when I was a little kid teaching me to open the door for people, and especially women. You know, she'd say, "Open the door for all women." And I remember one day, as I was growing up, as I got older, I opened the door for a woman, and she just walked by me like on her phone, just like walked by, didn't even make eye contact, just walked through the door that I had opened for her, and she walked through. And I remember thinking, blank. And I was upset. I was frustrated. I was like, why didn't she even acknowledge me? I wasn't expecting a hello or thank you, but at least an acknowledgement. And I remember being upset. And then I remember sitting down, as I coached myself sometimes, sat down and said, what really upset you about that? And I'm like, she didn't say thank you. And I'm saying, so did I open the door because I wanted thank you or acknowledgement, or did I open the door because it was right? And I said, you know what? You need to just settle your horses and say, I did it because it was right. I did it because that's the way I was raised. And I did it because it was right. And therefore, how she responds, it's none of my business. It doesn't matter.
Boom. Bob Donnell, episode 151. I just looked at the time. So here I'm gonna rattle off the list, and thank you, Darlene. Darlene says here, I wrote this down on my calendar 300 so I wouldn't forget. Thank you, my dear. I appreciate you. Longtime supporter. Episode 171, Daniel Echeverria. Episode 179, Randy Gage. Episode 180, Bob Berg. He's the author of the amazing, famous book, The Go-Giver. What a beautiful conversation with him. 187, Rob Pryor. He talked about beating his own cancer and the mindset of that. Episode 191, Mario Bekish. Oh my God, a 17-year-old kid in the Ukrainian Ukrainian war back then. No, it was something different. I'm totally fucking it up. But again, amazing conversation. I had to stop because there literally are so many amazing conversations that have impacted me and have impacted so many people. Patricia's here tonight. I want to talk about this. I also had this written down. Patricia and I, when was that? Jesus Christ. My brain is, was that Christmas last year? Was that Christmas of 2023? Yeah, oh my God, that was 2023. All right. Patty and I did 3 episodes here of the Raw Unscripted show, 241, 242, and 243. She's also been a guest on the show. She's an amazing person in my life. Thank you so much, Patty, for being here. We still have to catch up. It's been a minute. Again, Patty was the responsible party for my wristband saying believe. By the way, I sell wristbands. But she gave me a wristband back in 2013 because my cat was upstairs in the Sheraton Gateway Hotel, basically bleeding. And I brought him there. Long story short, she came downstairs, gave me a bracelet just like this that said believe on it. And I never took it off until it broke. And now we have believe and no excuses. And we have no excuses and unstoppable. Teresa Turner's in the house. She goes, she has one. Yes, she did buy those. So if you want to buy them, I'll make sure the link is somewhere in here, but check it out. Yes, Darlene says, Bob, exactly. Patricia's in here. My Teresa says here, I know the feeling on that. Been there, done that. Patricia knows Monica. She introduced me to Monica and says also here, she honored her lawyer big time. So here's the thing. I want to make sure that I get all this stuff in here. Do you guys want to see some bloopers? Do you guys want to see some bloopers? I want to show you. I just got to show you a couple bloopers. This is pretty funny. Where did I put those? I just want to share that with you. And then I've got some, what the fuck did I do with it? Oh, there we go. What did I do? Original files. There they are. Okay. So I want to show you this. This is pretty funny. When I was recording it, when I wasn't doing it live like this, I used to keep my bloopers. So hang on one sec. Because you just gotta laugh. You just gotta laugh, right? Where is it? Let's see. Let's check this out. Why do I hear a motorcycle?
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Raw and Unscripted with yours truly, Christopher Rausch, your place where I help you overcome your self-created crap without the fluffy bullshit. This is being recorded on the Logitech software.
Notice the background. The background's starting to look more like this. I did not intentionally set this background up to be a video background. It's just where my desk is. I want to walk in my office and see those 2 guitars. Let's see. Here's another one. Hang on one sec. You can just kind of see the different looks also. It's kind of interesting. Present, share screen. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I am so honored and grateful for you guys being here every single week, listening to the podcast, subscribing to the podcast, sharing the podcast. Let's check out and see what I goof up here.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Christopher Rausch and you are
Yeah, so you guys got to get the idea. There's a ton of them. Actually, I have got, truth be told, I have just in this file alone 112 bloopers. So that just shows you how many times I've screwed up. And that's really what I want to get across to you guys tonight. The big reason why I wanted to share this with you is wherever you're at in your journey, please start. Right? I started telling the story before. I got hung up. Like everybody has cameras and editing software and bumpers and and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to go through that hassle. I just want to come on here, turn the mic on, turn the camera on, and connect with you guys and inspire you hopefully enough that you go out there and share your gifts and we all make this world a better place, especially now, especially right now. Just start. People say, oh, how do I get started? How do I do this? How do I do this? A lot of people want to do podcasts. A lot of people want to do videos. Like, oh my God, I'm so scared. I don't know what to say. Have an intention in your mind. I often start when I think about the show. And in this year, in 2025, I'm doing a lot more solo shows. Truth be told, I was gonna tell you guys this. Truth be told, I did not have a guest because I did guests on my Kick-Ass radio show for 5 years. They shared 5. Let me just tell you this. They did 5 tips every show. So I did that for 5 years. You think about how many tips are just on the Kick-Ass radio show or the Kick-Ass Guide to Life that I told you guys about before. I didn't have a guest on the show for 34 episodes. My first guest, I'm pretty sure, was my health coach, Dr. Linda. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Dr. Linda. She's a health coach that I hired for a year when I was really taking my health seriously and wanted to learn about nutrients and how to shop and how to all that stuff. Yeah, episode number 47, Dr. Linda. And so one of the things I really decided here this year, and you guys have asked for this, is to do more solo shows. So it's just going to be a lot more like me and you. And I do have some guests lined up, but I am very particular about the guests that I have on the show. You may not know this, but I pre-interview every guest that I've had on the show, because before I didn't do that, and I would get people on the show, and for some reason when they see the record light go on, they immediately become a different person from the person that I was talking to before, and they become very in their ego, and they become very different. And the way I set up the show with the guest, if you've been a guest on the show, you know this, is I tell people it's like sitting at a bar or a coffee shop having a conversation, and everybody who's watching and listening are kind of eavesdropping and like, oh, what are those guys talking about? That seems really interesting. I'd like to learn more about that. But, you know, I've noticed guests are great, but I also find that they're also challenging. Just to be perfectly honest with you, they get in their egos, they become something different. And then there's other things about them not sharing the show and, you know, all this other shit. So my pledge to you guys is to bring you more content just from myself here in 2025. So with that, I would love for you, however you can do it, send me a private message, send me an email, info@noexcusescoach.com. Somehow, some way, let me know what's going on in your life, what you would like to know more of. And I will be happy to do a show on that particular subject or whatever it might be, about fear, about procrastination, about excuses, whatever, relationships, whatever it is that's going on in your life. I am happy to show up here every single week and share that with you. And if God's honest, if I don't know about it, which is pretty highly unlikely, I will do my research on it and we'll learn about it together. So I can tell you, I've got a lot of cool shows coming up. I'm going back through and looking at some of the content I did before and thinking, you know what, I did an overview on communication. Let me go a little bit deeper on that. So I really invite you to go back and check out those other episodes and do that. But again, have a vision of what it is that you want to do. Have a big why. Have a big why, so much so that when you want to give up, like I have, you know, during the last 6 years, you don't, and you get creative with what it is that you can do. That's why I'm doing things different this year. Also, another thing I'm going to be doing this year, if you're interested in doing it, is I'm going to be coaching people here live on the show. I've invited people through social media posts. I've got some people lined up. If you would be open to being coached here on the show, it's a free coaching session. And we just do it in front of a lot of people. That way they can understand and more grasp what coaching is versus traditional therapy. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to continue to doing special shows. I've been doing the men's roundtable with Jock and Walt. I'm thinking about doing like a women's roundtable and understanding things from a guy's perspective with women. And the other thing I wanted to share with you guys tonight is some of the things that I've learned. I've encapsulated some of the lessons that I've learned from these amazing, amazing guests. So here, I wrote these down just to make sure I could remember them because there's so many. No matter what we've all gone through, and there have been some people on these shows, whether it's the Kick-Ass show, the Raw Unscripted show, the Unfiltered Experience, I have determined and deduced that we have all been through some shit, right? We can't compare the trauma or the experience or the PTSD or whatever label you want to put on it, but all of us have been through something. But the thing I have found is that our attitude, our perspective, our desire to say, you know what, that is not going to define me. I was just selling this on the show last week, I think it was. That's yesterday's Chris. That's the previous version of Christopher. I aspire and I intend and I will be this version that I continue to be every single day and every single year. And I look back on my experiences and I'm grateful for the man that I continue to become. I'm excited, not that I'm excited about getting older, but I'm excited to see how I am at 65, 75, 85. You know, what new things am I going to learn? How am I going to incorporate that in my life? This last year, I quit drinking. I didn't drink alcohol for a whole year. And now I drink beer, but I can only have 1 or 2 beers because I really don't like the taste of it. But that has opened up so many different things for me and growth for experiences where I would say, oh, I'll have a drink right now to ignore this. But in the people I've talked to, no matter where you're at, I invite you to stretch yourself, to push yourself to that next level version of who you are. Like Bob would say, the next level. What is that for you? And really strive to set the legacy that you want to leave. Like I said before, you know, this little guy, he is everything in my world. I have turned down many opportunities to make sure that I'm a present at-home dad. I have quit my speaking career. I have quit traveling. I was going through my spare room and I saw all these speaker badges of all the different places I've spoken to. And I posted a picture of it. My why is that I'm present. My why is that I'm demonstrating to my son that I'm growing and I'm learning and that I'm imparting upon the world my gifts. You have special gifts. And I invite you to unlock them. And I invite you to get people in your life that support that. I would not be the person I am without Patricia. I'm not the person I am that I am today without Jock and without Walt and without my coach, Sally Anderson, the amazing Sally Anderson. I would not be that person had I not invested in the mastermind that I was involved in. I won't mention the person's name because I no longer care for him. Larry Broughton in my life. Patricia and I know Larry. Right? Who else? Bob Donnell in my life. Have people in your life that inspire you, that challenge you to become that best version of yourself. I'm sitting here today owning who it is I am. I was a suit and tie speaker. You guys can see it. But speaking of YouTube videos, there is a playlist of me wearing a suit and tie, no bandana, right? That was not me. And I joined a mastermind. And fortunately, everybody in the room, I said, I think about doing this kick-ass guide to life. I'm thinking about dressing in jeans and a t-shirt and a bandana. This is before anybody else was doing it. Everybody else was still wearing suit and ties and business professional and casual and all that shit. And I had people in the room say, do it, dude. The world needs you. This is before Gary Vaynerchuk and all the swearing. But I had people saying, oh my God, Chris, you're going to destroy your career. I had the great Les Brown tell me to my face. Tell me to my face. You guys can see those videos on YouTube as well. Les Brown interviewing me in his hotel room. He said, Chris, I could put you on stages, but I can't do this. And I said, Les, I love you, but I gotta be me. Right? Who do you want to be remembered for? Are you living that legacy right now? Are you creating that person that you're going to be most proud of tonight? When I go to bed at night, I think about what am I most proud of today? My word this year for 2025 is completion. Last year it was pride or being proud. And that really, really helped me. So at night I go to bed. What did I complete today? How did I push myself to think, okay, I'm just going to finish that later on, right? I'm great at starting things, not very good at finishing things. I have ADHD on crack. But so far in 2025, I've got a shit ton accomplished. I run a group coaching program, by the way. If you're interested in that, it's completely affordable. To work with me is a little expensive, but you can go to that group coaching. We meet twice a month. It's completely affordable. Get in with somebody. Obviously me, because I'm the guy that's got the demonstrated skills and the commitment and the dedication. But my word for this year is completion. And I intend on completing a lot of things. So I want to grab some of these comments. There's so much more I could talk about and I wrote down to share, but we're coming up on time. Thank you. Teresa says, I love your background. Darlene says, yes, bloopers. I have literally a ton of bloopers. Robert, Mama Brown's baby boy. Yes, I have pictures of Les Brown. I spoke in front of Les Brown. There's so many stories about that. I've met a lot of famous people. And you know what? I've met a lot of rich people. And I can tell you this with certainty and conviction. No matter how much money you think, oh, when I have this much money, when I have this much fame, when I accomplish this, then I'll be happy. It's bullshit. You could be happy right now. Something happened to me today that I really can't share right now. But something happened to me today that I feel so fucking grateful for. So grateful for. It's a personal thing. But you know what? At the end of the day, money and fame and all that shit isn't going to make you happy. It's who you are. It's when you lay your head on the pillow at night. Are you happy with the person you're being? Have you said your piece to somebody? Have you really, like, look at this. I'll give you an exercise before we go. Tolerations. This has been massive in people's lives. One of the people in my group coaching program said this is a life changer. What are you tolerating from yourself? What are you tolerating from other people? And what are you tolerating from inanimate objects? And there are a couple of things that I'm tolerating that I didn't realize. I haven't done this exercise in a while, but I told myself today, Chris, you're going to address those things and you're going to stop tolerating them. Even though sometimes I convince myself in my mind it's kind of petty, but if it's something that's still irking me, then I need to be honest with that individual. And come what may of that situation, if it's meant to go sour, if it's meant to go south, then so be it. On the other side of it, I'm going to be proud. I'm going to be accomplished, and that might open the door for something else or someone else, right? So you're not going to get through life without pain and heartbreak and anguish and tough times. But on the other side of it, you're going to look back and say, you know what? I wish I would have done that sooner. And I can tell you this, out of my coaching career, I've been coaching for well over 20 years. I hear that phrase so often. Chris, I wish I would have done it sooner. Chris, I wish I had a conversation with that person. I wish I'd have quit my job. I wish I'd have ended my relationship. I wish I'd have started the business. I wish I'd have started the podcast. I have people tell me like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I want to start a podcast. They still haven't done it. They're still in the same situation. They're still miserable. They never hired me as a coach. They still bitch, piss, and moan, and they wonder what someday is going to be like. And I can tell you this, they're going to be on their deathbed going, fuck, I should have done something. Don't let life pass you by, especially when you have somebody like me right there that can help you, guide you through those obstacles. And I'm great at it. My group coaching program people, we did a recap of what they accomplished. And most of them have been with me all last year. I asked them to tell me 3 things. I think it was 7, 10, 13 things that they accomplished last year. Do not live your life playing the someday game. Do not spend your days hoping, wishing, and praying, because that's bullshit. You have to take that action. I'm sitting here today, 6 years later. The time is going to go by. Live now, live in the day, live in the moment. Go back and listen to those episodes. Even the Kick-Ass Radio Show. There's a lot of great information there. There's no excuse. You have Google, you have YouTube, you have ChatGPT. The answers are there. If you're in financial crisis, fucking Google it. Start doing some shit. Start asking people some questions. Start pushing yourself. Stretch yourself. Do not be complacent. Do not be mediocre. I'll let you go with this because I got to go eat. When did it become acceptable to be mediocre? I want you to ask yourself this. When did it become acceptable to be fat? When did it become acceptable to be lazy? When did it become acceptable to allow people to treat me like shit in my life? The answer fucking better be not. It's not acceptable. And I'm no longer going to accept it. And I can promise you it's going to hurt and it's going to suck and it's going to be painful. But again, 3, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. I got people reaching out to me that have ended the relationship 3 years ago. Like, Chris, I just met the person of my dreams. Had I still been in that nasty relationship, I would not be where I'm at today. Thank you. Thank you for fucking calling me out on my shit. I'm here to call you out on your shit, guys. Join the group coaching program. Make the investment in yourself. Let's do this together. And let's continue to show up here every single Tuesday night, 7 p.m. I might change the time to earlier now that I'm not on the podcast network. Don't even get me started on that whole situation. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you found value out of this, please share this out. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Even if you show up here, support me. Support me, please. That's what I'm doing a better job of, is asking for people's support. I love and appreciate each and every one of you from the bottom of my kick-ass heart. Thank you for allowing me to share 300 episodes with you. There is no stopping me. My goal is to be ever expansive, to be on Sirius XM, to be somewhere to reach millions and millions of people. Right now I'm reaching thousands. My intention is to reach millions, and I need your help. Please and thank you. I'll be back here next week. Who is up next week? Let me see if I can tell you that real quick. I do have some guests. Let's see. Next week is Davey Williams. You're going to dig the fucking shit out of that guy. He's the real deal. I'm only having super, super quality people on the show. After that, it's another solo show. Then after that, I've got a guy named Brian Kelm. I should have mentioned his name. He was on the show before. I'm inviting some people back who haven't been on the show for a while that I really dug having conversations with. But a lot more solo shows. So please and thank you. Let me know what I can do to serve you. Go out there and have a brilliant night. Please live your life for today. And for God's sakes, don't be an asshole. Too many assholes right now. Too many assholes. All right. I love you guys. Robert says, thank you, Christopher. A call to action is always welcome. Thank you guys. All right. See you next week here on the Raw and Unscripted Show, episode 301, coming soon. Peace.